Hi, my name is John from Japanese Knife Imports, and today we're going to do a video about our knives from Zakuri. Zakuri is actually a conglomerate of knife makers located in the Tosa region. The Tosa region is in the south. It's actually on an island called Shikoku. And we've been working with Zakuri pretty much since we first started this company. And we've carried a wide variety of stuff, and this just happens to be some of the things we have in stock from them right now. So knives from the Tosa region are famous for a few things. The first thing that they're famous for is that they're actually working knives. They're made not to look pretty, not to be pretty, whatever. They're made to be functional knives that you use and that will work well for you in that sense. The Tosa region has a lot of forestry tools that they make there, and they have a lot of fishermen, and so that's kind of the background that they're coming from as blacksmiths. You'll see that all the knives, they're a little bit rustic looking. Kind of even the polished ones have a little bit of a rustic feel to them. And it's just one of the things that is Tosa knives. Knives from the Tosa region also happen to be carbon knives for the most part. And all of these are carbon knives. And some of them are blue super, and some of them are blue number 1. And they're both very, very good knives with good edge retention and a little bit better corrosion resistance than white steel. The Tosa region is famous for knives in blue steel, and you'll see the majority of knives from there happen to be blue steel. So these knives are carbon in both the cladding and the core. And so when you use these knives with acidic foods, you'll see that patinas will start to develop, and of course if you're not careful, rust can develop. But it's really not too bad to take care of carbon knives. It's just about wiping your knife clean and dry before you put it down. If you're going to store it for a long time, you might want to wipe it with some camellia or tsubaki oil. So let me go through the knives that we have here, and we'll start from here. This is a 270 millimeter Wagyuto from Zakuri, and this one happens to be blue super, and you can see that it says so here on the knife. And one of the things that you'll notice about the Zakuri knives off the bat is that the handles are large. It actually threw me when I first opened these boxes and saw these handles, and I was like, wow. But when I started to hold the knife and get a feel for what it was like, the large handles actually balance it out really well. I mean, these are large knives. Usually handled knives are measured from the handle to the tip, but in this case the maker measures from the heel to the tip, and so this is 270 millimeters, and from here to here is even longer. And to be quite honest with you, even from heel to tip, this maker tends to have them run a little bit long. So these are, I mean, pretty hefty and large knives. They're actually not too thick at the spine if you look at them, and you'll see they have a very nice distal taper here. But the large handles actually prove to be extremely comfortable. And I've had great feedback from them, from the customers that I've sold these to. I really enjoy the handles on these. And they happen to actually be really well finished handles too. So this one is a 270 millimeter Karrueche Wagyuto. Karrueche means that it has this blackish finish, which is residual scale from forging that's been left on here and not polished off. This one also is blue super. So the core of this knife is blue super as well. Again, the large handle. And you can see the Karrueche knives tend to be a little bit more rustic than the polished ones. They also tend to be a little bit thicker, though not in this case. In this case, this one is pretty thin as well. And the reason for that usually is because they're not grinding off the sides of these knives as much as they are on the polished knives. And so you end up with a little bit more left, especially towards the spine. But when you get over here, towards the edge, you can see that these knives are actually pretty thin behind the edge. So again, the 270 millimeter Karrueche Wagyuto. I want to show you guys, because I have one that you see in a bunch of the videos that we do, made by the same maker that makes all these knives. And this has actually become one of my favorite knives to use. And I don't know if you can see too well in the video, but this knife is thin behind the edge. And that's how these knives actually are. So when you see them and you see the measurements on our site, don't be fooled by the thickness of the spine. They actually are very good performing knives. Here we have a 240 millimeter Wagyuto, again in Aogami Super. The handle doesn't seem quite as large on this one, but it's still a large handle for this size knife, and it's just a very, very comfortable thing in hand. This one is the same, but Karrueche, so this is a 240 millimeter blue super Karrueche Wagyuto. Again, the handle. This one is made with blue number 1 steel. Karrueche blue number 1 Wagyuto. And so I guess I should explain to you a little bit about the differences between blue number 1 and blue super. So all of the steels that you see, like white 2, white 1, blue 2, blue 1, blue super, they're made by Hitachi Steel Company. And the way that they work is this. White steel is the most pure of them all, has the least additives. Blue steel has some additives that give it a little bit better wear resistance and corrosion resistance. When you see the number 2 has kind of a normal amount of carbon in it. Number 1s have slightly more carbon in it. So white number 2 has kind of a normal amount, and white number 1 has more carbon in it. And what that translates to is better hardenability. And so you'll see that white number 1 or blue number 1 knives tend to be a little bit harder than blue number 2 or blue number 1 knives. With blue super, they have even more carbon and a little bit of other stuff added in there to give it better edge retention and a little bit better corrosion resistance. They're still carbon steel, they still will patina, but blue will react less so than white steel will. And blue super, of course, having the best edge retention of them all. So that kind of gives you a little feel for what the steel types are like. Anyways, this one over here is a 270mm takobiki. And usually when you hear me say takobiki, I'm referring to a single bevel knife. But knives from the Tosa region are always ryoba or double beveled. And so you'll see that this one is also a double beveled knife. These knives are very thin and make great slicers. I don't know if you can see how ridiculously thin they are, but they are just extremely thin. And they taper a little bit also from the handle to the tip. And you'll see here the handle is a little bit different than the handle on these other knives. And this is the handle that Zakuri knives actually normally come with. And the other ones we've custom ordered to our specifications. And this is a handle made of walnut, and the ferrule is plastic. And you'll see on these, it's actually buffalo horn and whole wood, and they're octagon-shaped handles versus this one that's a D-shaped handle. Some people like the D-shaped handles and they find them to be more comfortable, and some people like the octagon-shaped handles. So this is the 270mm blue number 1 takobiki. This knife, again, is one of those 210mm tsujihikis or petties that I love so much. Zakuri calls this style yanagiba, and you can see that unlike most tsujihiki or petties, the shape is distinctly like a yanagiba. It has the profile of yanagiba, but it's a double beveled knife. This one is Karrueche, and it's got a blue super core, Aogami Super. It has the same handle as the takobiki, the walnut handle with the plastic ferrule. And I've always liked this size, and I said it time and time again, I find that it makes a great utility size. I used to use this size as a line knife when I was cooking professionally. I find that it works well for home cooks. It's just a very comfortable and easygoing size to use for whatever the task at hand. It's good for slicing, you can chop up stuff, whatever you need. It's just a general all-around size. We used to have this one also in blue number 1, and we probably will restock those at some point soon. But right now we have just the blue super ones in stock. This is an interesting little knife. This one is 165mm blue number 1 Funai Yuki. And Funai Yuki is actually a specific style of deba. It's supposed to be a very thin style of deba. And again, like knives from the Tosa region, this one also happens to be double beveled or ryoba. This one is polished, of course, so it doesn't have the Karrueche finish. These knives are generally used for breaking down fish, but I also thought they would make kind of nice santoku-like, utility knives around kitchens. They're very thin, they get very thin behind the edge, and they have enough blade height to give you knuckle clearance when actually using it, so you don't have to worry about hitting your knuckles on the board when using this knife. So it's kind of like a small, tall gyuto, something like that. And this last one that we have here is a 165mm nakiri. Nakiri are used to chop up vegetables, and you see them a lot in home kitchens. This one again is blue super and is quite thin as it tapers. It tapers from the handle to the tip a little bit, and it's quite thin behind the edge. It's got a very nice profile to it. The flat edge really helps you do a great job with dicing and chopping and kind of a thrust cutting motion that is used with vegetables. So again, 165mm Blue Super Nakiri. Anyways, that concludes our little showcase of Zakuri knives. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me and look us up on our website at JapaneseKnifeImports.com. Thanks so much.